Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, in a small village near the forest, there lived a little girl with her mother. She always wore a red hooded cloak that her grandmother had made for her, so everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, her mother packed a basket with bread and honey and said, "Take this to your grandmother, dear. She's not feeling well and needs some good food to feel better. Remember, go straight to her house and don't talk to strangers." Little Red Riding Hood nodded eagerly. "Don't worry, Mother. I'll be careful." Little Red Riding Hood happily skipped into the forest. The forest was alive with colors and sounds. Bright wildflowers dotted the path, and the cheerful chirping of birds echoed through the tall, green trees. The sunlight streamed through the leaves, creating dancing shadows on the ground. She admired the flowers, listened to the birds, and enjoyed the fresh air. While walking, she met a big, sly wolf. The wolf saw the little girl and thought, "What a delicious meal she will make." But instead of attacking, the wolf smiled and asked in a friendly voice, "Hello, little girl. Where are you going?" Little Red Riding Hood, not knowing wolves could be dangerous, replied cheerfully. She noticed the wolf's big yellow eyes, but his friendly smile made her think he was just being polite. "What a nice animal," she thought. "I'm taking food to my grandmother. She lives in a little house at the end of this path," Little Red Riding Hood said. A cunning glint flickered in the wolf's eyes as he devised his sinister plan. "Perfect," he thought. "I'll get there first and eat them both." "Have a nice walk, my dear," the wolf said, waving as he dashed off toward the grandmother's house. The wolf reached grandmother's house quickly. He knocked on the door and imitated Little Red Riding Hood's voice. "Grandma, it's me, Little Red Riding Hood. I've brought you some food." Grandmother, feeling weak, called out, "The door's open, dear. Come in." The wolf pushed the door open, leapt toward grandmother, and swallowed her whole in one gulp. Then he put on her nightgown, tied her bonnet, and climbed into bed to wait for Little Red Riding Hood. Soon, Little Red Riding Hood arrived at the cottage. The little cottage stood at the edge of the forest, with ivy climbing up its stone walls and a small chimney puffing out gentle curls of smoke. The red shutters on the windows made it look warm and welcoming. She knocked on the door and called, "Grandma, it's me. I've brought you some food." The wolf, pretending to be grandmother, answered in a weak voice, "Come in, my dear." Little Red Riding Hood entered and looked at her grandmother lying in bed. Something seemed odd. "Grandma," she said, "why are your ears so big?" "To hear you better, my dear," the wolf replied. "Grandma, why are your eyes so big?" "To see you better, my dear," the wolf said. "Grandma, why is your mouth so big?" The wolf couldn't hold back anymore. He jumped out of bed and roared, "To eat you better." Little Red Riding Hood's heart pounded as the wolf bared his sharp teeth. She froze for a moment, her mind racing to think of a way to escape. Little Red Riding Hood screamed and ran around the room, but the wolf was too fast. Just as he was about to catch her, a hunter passing by heard the commotion and burst through the door. "Step back," he shouted, raising his axe. The wolf turned, growling angrily, but before it could pounce, the hunter swung his axe with precision, knocking the wolf to the ground. The hunter acted quickly, cutting open the wolf's belly with his axe. To his relief, grandmother was still alive, though weak and frightened. The hunter wasn't done yet. He turned to Little Red Riding Hood and said, We need to make sure this wolf doesn't hurt anyone again." Together, they filled the wolf's belly with heavy stones and sewed it back up. When the wolf woke up, he tried to run away, but the stones were so heavy that he collapsed and died. Little Red Riding Hood hugged her grandmother tightly and thanked the hunter for saving them. She said, "I promise I'll always listen to my mother and never talk to strangers again." From that day on, Little Red Riding Hood became more careful, and she and her grandmother lived happily and safely in their little village. And that's all for this story. Thanks for your listening. Have a nice day.